So let's talk a little bit about procrastination. Who in here struggles with procrastination? Yeah, and the rest of you that aren't raising your hand are just procrastinating on doing it, aren't you? I know. You see, I always thought procrastination had to do with the thing I was procrastinating around, right? Like that procrastination has something to do with work. Believe it or not, procrastination has nothing to do with your work. Procrastination is a form of stress relief. Let me explain this. So let's say that you've got some stuff going on in your life, and heck, who doesn't have stuff going on in your life? Maybe you're fighting with your significant other. Maybe mom's or dad's health is failing and it's really, really upsetting you. Maybe you've got some financial stuff. You put too much of your savings into Bitcoin, and now that that's crashed, you're stressed out about it, right? And so you go into work, and when you get into work, you got stuff to do. You kind of walk in and you got this big stress ball that subconsciously is hanging over your head. And so you walk in and you sit down, and you know you got 13 phone calls you need to make. And you also know that you've been chickening out, you've been making easy calls, and there's a bunch of CIOs or other people that are higher level that you haven't been calling. And so as you sit down to do it, you got the stress on your shoulders, your brain it starts to go, wait a minute, well, you want me to make a call to somebody that I'm scared to make? Absolutely not. I'm so stressed out about, can we just watch some cat videos for a minute? And next thing you know, an hour's gone by. And then, of course, what do? You beat yourself up. So the only way that you can break this habit, and that's an important word for you to hear, you're not a procrastinator. You have a habit of procrastinating. Big difference. Because if it's a habit, I can teach you to use science to break it. You see, all habits have three parts. There's a trigger, and in the case of procrastination, the trigger's always stress. Then there's a pattern you repeat, and in the case of procrastination, it is to avoid doing something. And then there's a reward. You get a little stress relief. The only way to break a habit, you guys, is not to deal with the triggers. You're never gonna get rid of the stress in your life, but you can 100% change your pattern of avoiding work. So next time that you're in a situation where you feel yourself hesitate, you spent way too much time checking out the highlights from last night's scores, what you're gonna do is you're gonna go, oh, I must be stressed out about something. Acknowledge the stress. Then go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I want you to count to yourself because I want you to interrupt the habit that's stored here, and I want you to awaken your prefrontal cortex. Then I want you to just work, just for 5 minutes. The reason why I want you to only work for 5 minutes is because your problem isn't working. It's the habit of avoiding. I just need you to start. And here's the other cool thing. We know based on research that if we can get you to start, 80% of you are going to keep going.
Whether it was about how I looked or how I presented myself or my weight or academics, I was constantly being put down. And that really manifested this huge fear within myself that I was never going to amount to anything. Maybe you don't think you have that fear of failure, but do you ever catch yourself comparing yourself to others or saying that you're not good enough yourself? I think a really big reason as to why the fear of failure manifests is because of that self-comparison. And that's exactly how it started for me. I found myself often comparing myself to my peers, saying I'm not as thin as you, therefore I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, or I'm not as smart as you, or as pretty as you. People often won't admit these thoughts that we have because we don't want to show our feelings on our sleeve. But I guarantee that every single person in this room has at least experienced one of those thoughts a few times, right? Hyper-focusing on someone else and their accomplishments or successes or beauty or talents is only going to make you more miserable and insecure about you and your self-worth. One can make self-improvements to better themselves, but one thing that we need to focus on is that we don't make improvements to be better than someone else. The only person that we need to be better than is the person we were yesterday. I had a lot of self-loathing and self-hatred. And due to that, I dug myself a grave. I dug myself a grave to lie in because I was too afraid to dig out. I thought that even if I attempted, I was going to fail. But I'm standing in front of you guys right now, and I couldn't be more happier about this experience. And I'm very thankful that I decided to ignore my inner critic. And that's my advice to you all. Ignore your inner critic, because if I would have kept that mindset, there's no telling where I would be today.
If I asked you, do you need to change? And you said to me, no, I'd be worried. You know, like, you think you've figured everything out, like emotionally, professionally, all your relationships, everything's golden? Oh, okay, how's that working out for you? Infinite mindset is fundamentally constant improvement. So, you know, there's big change, there's little change, there's tweaks, there's dramatic change. Sometimes it's reacting to changing cultures, changes in culture, politics, technology. You know, sometimes the change is our own, sometimes we have to react to it. But I think the honest answer is yes, we have to change. There's always opportunity to improve something. Now, there are some people who love change. It's an infinite-minded thing to embrace uncertainty, to see opportunity in surprise. For some people, especially people who have gotten good at doing something for 10 years, 20 years, that all of a sudden you say you're going to change it, they fear. Again, there's that emotional word. They fear that they won't know how to, or it will set them back. And so no number of rational assurances will help them get over that. At some point, we have to just let them go through the process.